No one can have 200 reviews that are all 5-star. It's okay to have a couple bad reviews. It's really going to be a factor of how you respond that makes the biggest difference. Hi, this is Brian Basic with Polaris Marketing Solutions. So you got a negative review. First thing is relax, take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. You know, people would say that if you look at companies that all they have are 5-star reviews, they're suspect. People will look at them and say, you know what, I think they're almost a scam, they're fake. Because no one can have 200 reviews that are all 5-star. The sweet spot for reviews is between 4.5 and about 4.8. People look at that and say, you know, those are authentic. There's some negative ones in there. And if you're like me, when you go to Google, I don't necessarily look for all 5-star. I look for something less than that. And then what I do is I typically go, I look at all the reviews and I hit the lowest button. It will show me the lowest reviews that they have. And those are the ones that interest most people. Not the higher ones, the lower ones, because the lower ones will show me what areas they may have fallen in and then how they responded. It's okay to have a couple bad reviews. It's really going to be a factor of how you respond that makes the biggest difference. Okay, so now you have your bad review. What do you do? And so typically what I would do, and I ran a home services company for years, the first thing that I would do would be to get some good information and intel from my own company on what happened. It's hard for me to call a customer without getting at least my company's side of the story. I'll talk to operations, customer service, my office manager, any of those kind of folks to say, hey, what happened here? How did we fall down, or how did we get here? And so with that information, I would call the customer as soon as possible. You have to respond quickly. One of the worst things you can do when somebody vents and gives you information on how you've fallen down as a company is to wait days for that to fester, because it only gets worse. The quicker you follow up after a negative review, the better off you are. Typically, we would call. I would try to resolve it on the phone if it made sense, or I would schedule an appointment to actually go out and see the customer. Depending on what your business is, that may or may not be the case. But certainly having the owner, the CEO, the president, or someone higher in the organization call the customer to understand what happened is an important thing in really defending your reputation. And I cannot tell you how much I learned about my own company by letting the customer vent about what happened from their perspective, how we fell down. My goal in sitting down with a customer or talking to them over the phone was to listen, ask a lot of questions, get them to kind of vent and get their thoughts out, and then try to resolve it with them and come up with a resolution that made sense to both of us. In 98% of the cases, we could do that. Let's say we resolved the conflict, we came up with a solution, we implemented the solution, the customer was happy. It would be at that point in time that I would talk to the customer about the review. And it would go something like this. You know, Bill, I really appreciate that you took the time to, write us the review that you did. And to be honest with you, I probably would have written the same review if I was in your shoes based on what I understand happened. And so I appreciate what you did. Customer service is one of the pillars of our company. We really do want to do better in this area. And I appreciate you being a part of the resolution here. If you feel at any time that you want to revise the review or update it or anything, or even remove it, that's your call. But certainly we would appreciate that because, we live and die by our reputation. And I would say in 90% of the cases, they would either update the review, revise it. I've gotten someone from a 1-star to a 5-star. And again, I've not even responded on Google to their review. What do you do with that 2 to 3% that you've not been able to resolve? You've tried to negotiate, didn't go well. You offered some things, they weren't happy about it. The only thing now you can do is to respond to their review online and just professionally respond in a way that says, you know what, here's what happened. Here's how we tried to resolve it. Here's what we offered. The customer didn't accept it. And that's it. That's all I would write. Someone who was going to read that, you'd want them to say, you know what, this company went above and beyond. What they did made sense. I would have been happy with that. That's the impression that you want to give people who read your response. If you did have a negative review on Google, and you weren't able to resolve it, they didn't revise it, and so now you get a negative review. It's your last one, so it's the newest one on there. What can you do to minimize the impact of that review? I would suggest this. Reach out to a couple of your best clients that have already written you reviews in the past and ask them to write an updated review of your company. What that does is when they update their prior review, it will automatically treat it as a new review, and it will go on top of the negative review that you had. And so if you do that for 3, 4, 5 of your best customers, it will really begin to minimize the impact of that negative review. And so that's a great strategy that I would implement if that's the case. Lastly, let's talk a little bit about the process of reviews. With my company, what we did was we would ask a customer after we had an engagement with them, we'd say, would you recommend us? If they said no, it would automatically send them and say, can you please explain why you feel the way that you do. We're certainly not encouraging them to go to Google to do that. They're just venting on our platform, and we're going to get that information. And then we're going to go through the same process I described earlier. And then obviously if they say, yes, we'd recommend you, then you can provide the link to go to Google for them to provide a review. Now, I can't prevent someone from going all the way back and going into Google and doing that. But through my review process, I'm controlling that a bit. And so what that allows me to do is if there is an issue, instead of trying to then get a Google review revised or taken down or whatever, it's offline. If you can come up with a process that's similar to that, that might be very beneficial to you and help protect your reputation. It will reduce the amount of revisions that you have to do to Google and more public forums like that. And it's a great way to control your reputation a little bit more closely. So if you have any other questions about how to minimize a negative review, feel free to reach out to us and give us a phone call.